Shalom, shalom, all praise and glory to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem, Rakakwadash. That will honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of great millstone. Salutations to the hopeful elect, beginning with the 144,000. I came across this yesterday. Thought it was pretty interesting, and decided to do a quick and brief lesson on it. And this is comes from the channel Hindustan Times, and it's entitled "Watch: Putin Gathers World Leaders in Kremlin, then Drops BRICS Bombshell, Russia Victory Day." So this was 4 or 5 days ago, 5 days ago, and BRICS, is a union of a number of nations, coming together, that was coming together, as as means of getting away from being subject to having to, do business or trade with the American currency, as being, the number one currency that these nations agree to, to use when doing business and trade. Looking to with Russia looking to defy America, which is known as Babylon the Great, as a superpower on the face of the earth. For having the reputation, having that title or position of power as a superpower as the number one superpower on the face of the earth. Now that Russia, now that the Lord put the spirit on Russia through Putin to have, such a strong military might, and make decisions, unifying with other nations. Now they have the strength to challenge the authority of which they've been beefing, going back to the Soviet Union, but the Cold War and all that. But Putin, Russia put this BRICS union together, to help, gain strength, all right, and to be more of a threat, because America has been the superpower, has been because of their military and their economy, and their union of other countries, being backed by other countries. But now, BRICS standing for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and many other countries have joined with BRICS, in their fight against, basically American rule, primary rule, because America has been a fucking a bully. They basically robbed everybody for their gold, and they're looking to establish global domination, which will ultimately turn into the prophecy of the new world, new world order, looking to be established through Esau, Edom nation, the so-called white man, at the top. So in order for that to happen, something has to happen that's going to bring America and Russia together to a certain degree, to agree with to a certain degree, to agree with each other for that one world government. All right, which part of what comes with that is the one world money system, all right, which is going to be the fulfillment of the MOTB, which is a main which is the main prophecy that has to come to pass in order for the thermonuclear destruction to come to the prophecy of the thermonuclear destruction to come to pass. In order for and those things, all those things, being going hand in hand with the second return of our Lord, Messiah, and Savior, Yahushua, who the world enemy calls Jesus Christ. So, anyways, it says, Watch Putin gathers world leaders in Kremlin, then drops BRICS bombshell, Russia victory day. It says, watch President Vladimir Putin dramatic victory day toast at the Kremlin as he welcomed world leaders and hails the Soviet Union's decisive role in defeating Nazism. I don't know how to pronounce that. It says Putin calls for global unity, a stronger UN, which is the United Nations, which Russia is a part of. It says going back to the Soviet Union, it says, and a just world order rooted in mutual respect and international law, with a powerful message on history, diversity, and the future. Putin urges solidarity for peace and prosperity. You know, the scriptures say when he say peace and safety, then suddenly destruction, roughly paraphrasing. It says Putin urges solidarity for peace and prosperity. Catch the most stirring moments of this historic Kremlin gathering on the eve of the 80th anniversary of Victory Day. So I'm not gonna play it. I'm gonna just read from a certain point. Okay. I basically, let me see. I basically gotta read the whole thing. All right, I'll read the whole thing, right? And it says, dear friends, first of all, I'd like to extend a heartfelt welcome and to say thank you to all of our reliable friends and partners. You came to Moscow to share the joy of celebration of the victory over Nazism, I don't know, to commemorate the heroes who fell in that fight. May the 9th is a sacred date for our multi-ethnic, it may have said multi-ethnic, which is basically a melting pot, a collaboration of all different types of nations, right? Ethnicities and cultures. It says people, the Soviet Union played a decisive role in crushing Nazism. This historical truth cannot be silenced and cannot be belied. Our fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers did a heroic thing that will forever shine in history. They sacrificed their lives for their country, for their homes, and for the right to determine our fate, to speak our own language, and to raise our children in our culture and tradition, where we will never forget our friends and allies, right? Because under Hitler, Nazi Germany was looking for global domination, in which they would in which they were looking to establish this basically pure bloodline of Aryan peoples, looking to put the pressure and force, the globe, to adopt their ways. It says our culture and tradition, we will never forget our friends and allies in that sacred fight. It was common efforts of the peoples, Europe, the United States, Africa, Latin America, the Asia Pacific, the consolidation of the will of the soldiers of the anti-Hitler coalition of resistant fighters and the liberation movements, partisan fighters, and underground resistance fighters. May 9th, 1945, which they call what is it? Victory Day. On May 9th, 1945, the Soviet Union celebrated Victory Day, commemorating the official end of World War II in Europe. All right. This date marked the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany to the Allied forces. The Soviet Union celebrated V-Day on May 9th because the signing of the German instrument of surrender in Berlin occurred after midnight Moscow time, marking the end of the war for them on May 9th. It says May 9th, 1945 opened the door for new security, right? Because Hitler, Nazi Germany was such a threat. They had all the nations of the earth shook, and they was basically out of control, and due to the conquering, a coming together of multiple nations, right? As a world war, was what had to happen to put an end to that great threat, all right, which opened up, which basically once America, dropped those bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all the attention, which America been had the juice, all right, and they been had all eyes on them or whatever, but that once they dropped them bombs, that just put all eyes on them, even more, and it just shook the whole world up, all right, in between, the Nazis supposedly being as ruthless as they were, and the way that World War II ended, it forced all the nations of the earth to rethink, how they need to move as far as being secure, as far as having equal rights, as far as working together, how they're gonna work together for basically all nations to be happy and to not be forced to be ruled over by one nation, because they didn't want it to be a repeat of a threat like Nazi Germany. But and so America, deceptively has grown a reputation for being easy. Everybody want to get money with America. The deals is sweet with America. America deceptively made, the scripture said, gift destroyeth the heart. And that's also that Babylon juice, through the philosophies and the democracy of America, they've deceived the whole nations. They've deceived the Earth's nations into, looking at them and viewing them as a friend, you know. But now they're realizing more and more just how they've been deceived. All right, and just how much power or unequal power America has, since they dropped those bombs, and then since then, all these other nations, beginning with Russia, has been basically trying to play catch up, to level the playing field, right? To make make things more equal, so that they're not as much of a threat. And so now, so it says May the 9th, 1945 opened the door for a new security architecture, and to the creation of a new institution of global significance, the United Nations, and it is our duty to utilize its potential to the fullest extent. Today we're seeing a new, more just world order take shape, and the meaning behind the United Nations is important as ever. We must strengthen its coordinating role, making it central in global affairs, achieving and maintaining the principles and standards enshrined in its UN Charter. So, these nations of the earth, they try their best to work together, but the official, what's going to actually bring that official new world order and put the seal on the deal is that micro C-HIP technology, which is known as the MOTB, the mark of this beast-like system, and so it says, in which no matter what level of society you in, you're going to have the option. You're going to be threatened with the pressure of conforming to the image of the beast, which is the new world order, by way of receiving that micro C-HIP, which is the mark of the beast-like system that will establish, the union of the nations of the earth. It says, in standards enshrined in its UN Charter and all their interrelatedness, it was something that was mentioned during the Kazan Summit in BRICS. It says that was attending by many delegations present. Today that summit gathered, and it's going to get to the point. Today that summit gathered many leaders, right? So the 80th anniversary of the official ending of World War II, Trump called together world leaders. Today that summit gathered many leaders of sovereign countries representing unique models of social, political, and economic development, different cultures, different religious, different cultures, different cultures and histories, and all of that makes us stronger and richer, because at the foundation of our relations and of our common work, we have a common set of values and aspirations. We stand for fairness, equality, friendship, good neighborliness, mutual respect, and consideration of interests for equal and indivisible security for all. And we call on the global community to stand in solidarity when addressing the challenges of today, to feel the responsibility for the fate of future generations. We're sure that only such approaches can ensure peace, stability, and equality for peoples of the earth. This is the point. Russia is ready to engage in this constructive work together. Let me raise a toast for the generation of winners. All right. So all these prophecies is lined up back to back to back. All right. And this is music, to the ears of the elect, because the faster these nations come together, and it's a dream that's gonna be turned into a nightmare. It's a desperate plan, and in which they hope for. All right, and the Lord is orchestrating this whole thing. And so these nations are going to come together, but something going to happen to it, though it's going to fall all apart fast as hell. Fast as hell. All right, according to prophecy, though, right? It's Revelation 17. I'm going to begin at 11. It says, "And the beast that was and is not," all right, even he is the eighth and is of the seventh, and goeth into perdition, right? Because John the Revelator on Isle of Patmos, he saw a vision of an actual a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, but it said that a eighth what is it? Eighth head, right? Salaki. Salaki. Right, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition, right, which represents America. All right, the 7 heads going into the 7 heads going into the what is it, Slovakia, the EU, all right, the European Union, all right, which America is not a part of, but has a heavy influence over, and the 7 heads and the 10 horns going into both the union of the EU and NATO, all right, and when you in the 7 heads going into the countries, the kingdoms, rather, that Esau, Edom nation, the so-called white man conquered, which led up to America being established, knowing that America came out of Great Britain, all right, and which is one of the kingdoms that the nation of so-called white man conquered. Okay, and so it says, "And the beast that was and is not," because even though John saw this beast, America wasn't established yet, which is known as Babylon the Great. "And the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdoms as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast." This is the point that I want to grab. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, talking about America, and NATO and the EU, is basically ran by America. All right, and so even though Russia is not a part of this beast, ultimately, um, um, Russia also is going to join in, right, with multiple other countries. All right, is going to join in that union with America and the beast. All right, to establish the new world order. All right, and be down with the mark of this beast-like system, which is that micro C-hip technology, that one creating that one world money system. Like I said, that will put the seal on the deal of that one world government, that one world money system, that one world government, that one world army. All right, but and this is how you know that even though it's talking about America and their allies, it's also talking about it's going to lead to other nations altogether. It says these shall make war with the Lamb. So now it's not going to just be, and that's part of, and that's going and that's part of why the Lord is having it, having things go the way that it's going, because he want all the nations to come together, when Yahweh Shah, which is the Lamb, who the world even calls Jesus Christ, makes his second return with the innumerable amount of chariots, spaceships, in which the world enemy calls UFOs or UAPs, to make the end, that much more exciting, to make the destruction, and the impact of the Lord's judgment that is going to be seen and felt, even more powerful. It's going to be an all-out Royal Rumble between the powers of the heavens and the powers of the earth. The Yahweh Shema Shah and the elect of the nation of Israel with spiritual powers versus Esau, Edom, and all the heathen nations that are in rulership with their technology. So it's all for the will of the Lord, and to glorify Yahweh Shema Shah's name, because this is going to be the war to end all wars. The end of this thing is going to be a literally a big bang, in which the whole earth is going shake to and fro, like a drunkard, because of the great destruction, which is the power of the Lord. You got a vision, you got to see it like that. The Lord is having everything go exactly how it happened, so it could be, the judgment, the impact of the judgment could be remembered, all right, forever and ever and ever and ever, in which it will be. These shall make war with the Lamb, and that's why they got their now they have a space force, a military out, in the firmament amongst the heavens. All right, they got their ground troops, they got their air troops, they got their navy, and they have it looking to establish, something in space. So my question is, once you have a one world government and a one world army, who is it left to fight? For what reason is there to have an army if all nations is together as one? And it's perfect. There is no, who is it left to fight? There's only one question, right? There's no one left to fight on earth, but there must be a foreign or outer world, invader that they know about or worried about, which they should be, because he's not a foreigner, and the earth, belongs to him and the nation that he sprang out of. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. All right, and so this is prophecy unfolding before our eyes. This is 2 Ezra 16 and 68. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. Right, like when you go back to the time of the Maccabees, right, the Hellenization of the Jews, all right, in which the Greeks, which was Esau, Edom as well. All right, at the time, right, Alexander, his generals, all right, leading up to Antiochus Epiphanes, being one of the worst ones of all for his ruthlessness. Not only was it illegal for us to worship our God, to keep our own ways. We had to. They put the pressure on us to totally adopt, the Greek culture, their gods, all right, their foods. They was forcing us and torturing us, to eat swan's flesh, and a lot, certain of our people, were made martyrs for not basically conforming to that one world order that the Greeks was trying to push on trying to on Israel, on you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. This is a part of our history, and that's going to happen again. Except the idol, the ultimate idol, is going to be that micro C hip. All right, the mark of this beast-like system, in which everyone is going to be, like I say, threatened to take this, or be an outcast, be forced to deal with the possibility of being homeless, of starving, all right, being ridiculed, being just like when the jab came, they for a while, if you was around certain people and they knew that if you didn't wear a mask, they knew that you didn't get the vax or whatever, you ain't let them, inject you with that juice, in the name of, being immune to, what was spreading, going back to 2020. If you was around certain people, they looked at you crazy, like you had a virus, like you had AIDS, or like a zombie, like you can infect them, and they that's how they wanted it, and that's gonna come back, but it's gonna be way more extreme. All right, if you don't have that micro C it, all right, then it might be an example where you might want to use a public bathroom, and you might attempt to get into a fast food restaurant. All right, somebody might, you might wind up slipping in. Somebody might wind up opening the door because they got the mark. So you got in the facility, but now you trying to use the bathroom, and just like now, you gotta ask the restroom. Most public bathrooms, you gotta ask, it's for customers only, and you gotta ask them to buzz you in or whatever. That's gonna turn into you having to have that mark, and people going, just like people see you now. You might not buy nothing. All right, and you try to go in there using the bathroom, and like you a customer, and you like nah, and then you trying to plead with them because you really gotta use the bathroom. It's like a real emergency, and now everybody looking at you crazy like, oh, this nigga about to piss on himself, or he don't want to buy nothing, but he trying to come in here and use the bathroom for free. It just draws attention to you. It's gonna be way more extreme. Where they gonna possibly be giving rewards for telling on people who are trying to be in the public, general population, without having that mark. All right, it's gonna be the new trending thing, and if you don't got it, people gonna look down on you. All right, so it says, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle, right? They're literally going to try to force, the thought of receiving that microseed, down your mouth spiritually, and get you to accept it and be like, it ain't so bad. I don't got no choice. You can't beat them, join them, basically. Feed you being idle with things offered unto idols, and it's going to be so, from you resisting, you might find yourself being in a concentration camp, and being tortured. Your family might be tortured in front of you. They might tell you, you won't eat, you won't get out. We won't let your ass out, and you won't eat until you sign on the dotted line, or whatever, right? And consent to receiving that mark with things offered unto idols, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. All right. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection. All right, martial law. All right, instead of police officers on the street, you got military soldiers, running things. All right, barricades, roadblocks, checkpoints. All right, curfews. And it said it's the scripture speak about how how it speaks about those draconian laws. All right, what did it say? Spoke as a dragon, roughly paraphrasing. Is it 13? Hold on, Salaki. It is 13. Right, Revelation 13. And 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Right, the first beast here talking about Rome, the Roman Empire, and because Rome fell, all right, and was resurrected, through America, basically. All right, going back to the Renaissance and everything leading up to Esau, Edom, establishing America, what is known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures. And he exercised of all the power of the first beast before him. And causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Right, the Renaissance. America is filled with the ways of the Romans, and the Greeks, because they, the Romans adopted many of the ways of the Greeks. All right, and Rome, just like America has a Senate, Rome had a Senate. They dealt with votes. A lot of art. All right, Roman numerals. Okay, Latin, the use of Latin words. All right, what else? Renaissance, going into the word rebirth or reborn. All right, the Renaissance was a rebirth of basically classical, the things that were threatened to be lost in what they call classical antiquity, which was a period in which Greek culture and Roman culture flourished. All right, which is all part of Esau Edom's history. But the point being that I wanted to grab is verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. All right, appearing to be docile, appearing to be peaceful. All right, like a lamb. All right, first, when America first was established, it was supposed to be for like Christians or whatever. And in the name of Christianity, like like turn the other cheek, basically, treat your neighbor how you would want to be treated. All right, these devils deceptively, began the conquering of the new world, what they called the new world at the time. Through establishing peace treaties. All right, and but now, right, it says the end of this place. All right, their true colors are coming out. Right, and he spoke as a dragon. Right, getting into those very harsh draconian laws that are going to be used through martial law. All right, in which if you outside past a curfew, you might get shot on sight. If you get caught, breaking the simplest law, all right, you might get shot on sight. If you get caught not having, the charagma, the mark of this beast-like system, that microseed of technology, they'll grab you and throw you into a concentration camp. You see what they doing with with that prison in El Salvador. There's multiple accounts of them, grabbing people, all right, who don't even belong, You know, they might be a U.S. citizen, all right? But so these devils gonna, show their horns and they gonna do what they want to do, man, all right? And show their hypocrisy, all right? And how they set up laws, but they change them, whenever they want. So it says, verse 69 again, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden underfoot. All right. So ultimately, if you consent and conform to the image of the beast by receiving that micro seed hit, all right, the image of the beast being a new world order that they are surely about to establish, you're ultimately going to be led to destruction. In the day of the Lord's judgment, all right, which ultimately is going to come by way of thermonuclear fire. And not only that, the chariots, right, the spaceships, the so-called UFOs, they're going to be shooting concentrated fire, laser beams to add to the fuel of the fire. For there shall be in every place in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord, right? The time of Jacob's trouble, the hour of temptation. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. So those going to, the men of the Lord, this truth is going to be demonized, and the men of the Lord is going to be the new face of terror. All right. The men of the Lord are going to have just like in ancient Rome, all right, it was illegal to be a Christian in the true sense, a follower of Yahweh Shai, all right, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. It says for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. All right. So the fire representing the trials and tribulations that the elect is going to have to go through, in order to try them to see if they are part of the elect, through their faith, try their faith, to prove, who the Lord's elect is. All right. So very serious, very deadly serious and exciting times. All right. We're approaching. Prophecies is popping like popcorn. And with that, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles.